I feel like an accent coming on, eh? Hello. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the GMD Think Alike podcast. I am your host, Ray Rich Brown, aka Prometheus Sage, and I am here with my brother-in-law, aka Gordy. Mr. Gordon Te Hira. I told you it starts off slow, bro.
It's all right. No expectations.
Anyway, welcome, bro. Thanks for doing this.
Happy to be here.
Last minute.
Yeah.
All the way from Sydney, Australia. All right, bro. Try ease into it. So like I do with every guest, I try to kind of pick I pick out memories. I like the guests to share memories from like their earliest, when they're like what's your earliest memory basically, and then we kind of build from there. I want to learn like what it was like, from the very early days.
Okay. Look, firstly, just wanted to say, look, thanks for inviting me on. Really proud to see this journey sort of starting for you, and we've been watching obviously for a while, and not necessarily the podcast, but just your life journey, and yeah,
more than most people.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see what we go through and what we share today. But again, look, privileged to be here to be sharing with you. Look, I'll start with firstly, like you said, my name, and that. Our connection is your sister, your beautiful sister, definitely my queen, and So look, I'll start with early hood memories. Look, I've had a very good upbringing, a very good childhood. I've been blessed, so the first thing for me is being able to share times with my cousins, aunties and uncles. Definitely fondest memories. And then going from that, pretty much from the opposite side of things is when I was 13, the death of my father. And that's sort of pretty much helped sort of build me to the person that I am now. But look, going back a couple of steps again, first I wanted to share with my mum, So firstly I wanted to say my mum, Kitty, Epere, now Te Hira, obviously. Shout out, Mum. Love you, Mum. I know we're down here in Melbourne, sharing Easter with the family down here, but
we miss you guys up there.
Yeah, we do. We just got off the phone from her actually.
Yeah,
and she's been a blessing in my life, and so shout out to Mum. But look, got two brothers, Joseph and Ed, and a sister Nadia, and a stepsister Katrina, and a stepbrother Edwin. Pretty much in my life, I was brought up with my dad and mum, and they were very family-orientated people. And in Manurewa, so South
Rewa,
Auckland,
Rewa.
So we were brought up. Dad was very soft, if I must say, but disciplined at the same time, and Mum was the hard one. She was the one that used to discipline us.
Oh.
Yeah. But she was the one that helped strengthen those values we have of honesty and trust and that. But coming back to the memories, look, used to go to beaches and all that sort of stuff. That was the stuff we loved, sharing with our family. Used to go to camps with the family. And those are the best stuff. And that sort of molded me who I am now, and the love I have for our family, So that's my fondest memories and earliest memories, really, And going back another step too, one thing that just comes to mind now was the fact that when I was younger, we used to go to kindergarten and stuff, and Sunday school, and
now we're talking.
Yeah, for sure. And my grandmother, she was a massive part of our family. Just the soft one, the one that always believed in all of us.
One, eh?
Oh, the caring one. And she was the one that used to, because I was the eldest grandchild that used to live in New Zealand at the time, and a lot of the older ones lived here in Australia. And she used to help me to sort of say the karakia, the prayer, and at all our family gatherings. And, that sort of helped me to, I guess, step into the sort of leadership role as such as a family.
You're a natural leader, I'm sure. People that watch this will know. Yeah?
Some things are natural, but definitely have to work on things, eh?
Yeah. Well, you started at a very young age then, Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and I think that's all part of our culture, though. Our culture of
especially being the eldest grandson.
Being the eldest and being the male in our culture is quite significant. And you had to step up, and that sort of eventually helped in the role of when Dad passed away. So, and that's another part of a story too. But
it's a big story, I'm sure.
It is. Again, just had a great childhood. Very blessed,
So you didn't get into trouble when you were younger, in your teens?
Good question. No, not really. I haven't got any of those stories to really share.
Did you go to MH?
I went to James Cook High School.
Cook?
James Cook, yeah, went to James Cook High School.
James Cook.
Yeah. So actually what happened is just before I went to high school, Mum and Dad made a conscious decision to come and try in Australia. So what happened is they sent my brother and I, so Joseph and I, sort of went to the airport. We all came over, caught up with the whole family and said goodbyes, and they sent us over here.
And you knew?
Yeah, of course. So they sent us over here to Sydney and...
just you two?
Yeah, just us two by ourselves, and went to my Uncle Willie's and Auntie Deb's. So shout out to those two as well. They've played a significant part in our life as well.
Yep.
So that was Mum's eldest brother. And so we come over to Sydney. Went to high school, started going to school, and what the plan was is during that time, Mum and Dad would sort of start fixing up the house, painting, fixing it up, and then selling the house and then moving over to Australia, so uplift everyone.
It's the one in Rewa?
Yeah, so we used to live in Hyperion Drive in Rewa. Yeah, so that was...
I remember that place,
Yeah, that's a significant part of our history too, and our childhood, and that lovely
with
memories.
The pool,
Yeah, and also just all the neighbours and that, because it was different back in those days, where you could connect with the neighbours. They were pretty much like family too.
Yeah, they would have been.
Yeah, they were.
It was like a little dead end kind of cul-de-sac, as you would say, yeah?
Yeah, actually, that was the one after. That was in Valencia.
I haven't been to the other one.
Yeah, that was a few years before we sold it. So what happened is Mum and Dad were to clean that up and come over. Unfortunately, before that happened, Dad passed away. So from a heart attack, only 36 years old.
Oh, that's my age.
Young,
Yeah, sheesh.
Young.
Very young.
And then we ended up going back, Joseph and I ended up going back home and staying there for a little while. Yeah, so a bit of a journey that way. But what I was sort of getting to was obviously having Dad pass away and having to step up, if you like, as the elder in the house and there, and being the eldest child and trying to be supportive to the family and also to Mum. So that was part of that character, and
that's huge.
It was. But really didn't get into too much trouble. I'm not sure what it was exactly, but you sort of, in my head, wanted to step up and so sort of helped to mature me at a younger age. But and then, so I didn't get into too much trouble.
That's
probably the worst thing I got into was driving without a license.
Oh, yeah.
But that was nothing.
No, it's good. It's good. It's a good example, You don't have to get into trouble to learn the lessons.
No, you can learn by watching others for sure.
Yeah. Oh, so what was your father's name?
Toto Te Hira, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so massive part of my life too.
Yeah. So 13, you would still have quite a lot of memories about him.
Yeah, definitely.
You weren't too young to not really recall a lot of the memories and interactions that you had with him. So that's good that you can still cherish 100%. those memories,
100%. And I guess reflecting on that again, look, if I go back at a bit of a funny period there was even when Dad passed, what I still remember was the fact of how many people showed up at the funeral and how well respected he was too. So I sort of tried to and install those sort of things to see, oh, shucks, stepping up to have that influence on other people. So I used to coach touch teams as well. So you had mixed touch teams and men's and women's, and coached rugby league as well from Marlins, the under 18s, under 21s, and so years, and then a leader in the power board where he worked in that too. So
quite active, eh?
Oh, he was. So it was a bit of a shock for us.
Yeah,
bit of a shock for us for sure. Obviously, being a dad now, it's even more important to make sure that you're trying to keep fit and eat healthy food. Even though we're down here in Melbourne and Mum's cooking is amazing,
eating powers and cream.
Oh, the best. Best chop suey. Yeah, but no, it's been an awesome journey.
Toto, eh? Where did he grow up?
Look, he grew up in Rewa too.
He did?
He did, yeah. So him and his family, his brothers and sister, they were brought up in Manurewa, and his dad was actually a Marlins coach as well in the league. He coached the seniors, and he actually coached your uncle as well, Uncle John.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and also my uncle that I came to live with here, Uncle Willie. So he coached them all in the senior team, and another significant sort of icon with Marlins in the day.
Oh, wow. Yeah. There you go, eh? Marlins.
Yeah, it's a big part of my life, Marlins, for sure.
That's your grandfather?
Yeah, Ned Te Hira.
He's still alive?
No, he passed away not long after Dad, actually.
Oh, no.
Yeah, not long after Dad. But, definitely a lot of stories. He used to work at Hallaby's as a supervisor and inspector there too, so he was connected through the Brown family as well, so or the Brown family knew him too. So small world. Yeah,
very small. Yeah, I've always wondered like the mystery, as you would maybe say, around like your father, because I know that's a big deal, you know, your father passing away, and to hear like you've taken so many positives from it, you know, it's good, good. Pass it on, you know. That's what we're doing, handing it down, yeah.
Yeah, try to for sure. And yeah, look, he had a significant impact on our whole family. He was probably the comedian, if you like.
Really?
Well, I'm not that type of person. I'm more of an introvert. I think he's more of a sanguine sort of personality. He's out there and quite, charismatic sort of a personality. So we're a bit different, where that sort of passed on to my younger brother, Ed.
Yeah.
He's got that personality. He's got a great sense of humour, you know. But yeah, Dad's got that part of it. I'm more of the serious type for sure, more of a...
Was Ed the second oldest?
So it goes myself, Joseph's the second eldest.
I thought Joe.
Yeah. And then Ed, and then Nadia.
But did you go to Sydney with Joe or Ed?
Yeah, with Joseph.
Oh, Joe, sorry.
Yeah, Joe.
And they're, where do they live now?
So Joseph lives in Hamilton, him and his family. So Morgana, his wife, and his 3 children, Bianca, Sonny, and Charlie.
Yeah, because I knew they're still back in NZ. I wasn't sure where.
Yeah. So he's in Hamilton, and Ed and Crystal, Harper and Zadie as well, and they're all in Rewa. They're actually staying with my grandfather at the moment. He's another blessing. Maybe we'll get to him shortly too. And but they'll be buying their own home shortly and moving out. And hopefully this podcast doesn't get to my grandfather yet until they've sorted all that sort of stuff out. But anyway, we'll see how we go. But yeah, they're ready to move on in their journey in life too.
That's good.
Yeah. And Nadia, she's here in Sydney with us.
Yeah. Used to live in Melbourne.
Now we're going to start talking Melbourne and Sydney by the sounds of it. But anyway,
trader. Nah.
Yeah. So, she's got her daughter Journey. She's beautiful too, and August.
Yeah, big on basketball.
Unbelievable. And also her her new son Tyree as well. He's a
Yeah,
big,
I haven't met him. Yeah,
yeah, no, he's a beautiful personality, and her stepchildren as well, Mel and so that harmony. But yeah, obviously, big part of my life is the family. While I'm saying their names,
yeah,
but
it's all right. It's all part of the journey. Your family are the ones that are gonna really cherish this video.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Either that, or I think with my family we have a good laugh. To be honest, yeah,
Good spirit.
Yep.
Then you got Trina.
Yep. So Trina,
Oh,
like I
Trina.
was saying, yeah. So she's had a journey in her life too, and what happened with Trina being a stepsister. And sorry, Trina, but I'm just going to mention a couple of things there. But she was getting into a bit of trouble in her younger days, and Rhea and I actually struggled to have kids for a long time. We've been trying to have kids this not long after we met, because we both love children. And we struggled for over 20 years for sure. But in the time, Katrina was having a bit of trouble at home and at school and just things worked out, and we were lucky enough to bring her over and sort of live with us for a while. So she's 10, now she's 28.
Yeah, 18,
she was
18 years.
Yeah,
over
she's
here on this side.
Yeah, she's definitely been a blessing too. She's a good role model for Andrea. Andrea, beautiful daughter. Yeah, so she's a hard worker. That one. She's
sure
definitely a hard worker.
Watches you.
Yeah.
So that's probably a big part of this connection is my sister Rhea. I call her Leah.
You do. The whole family do.
Oh, so let's get into that then. So when was the first time you met Leah?
So I was 17.
Oh,
I was 17
teens,
teens, and Rhea was 17 too, going on 18, and both going to different schools. Like I said, I was at James Cook, and she was at Papatoe High.
Yeah. Oh, Papatoe.
Yeah. Shout out to Papatoe High, latest COVID cases.
Won't go there.
Anyway, but so we actually used to play a lot of sports, and I could. And we both played touch for counties, and that's pretty much where we met. And the rest is history. So we played at counties in the mixed side. Yeah, and we just started to connect through there, So
I remember the first time, I guess Leah brought you home. I was supposed to be in bed, but I saw you. I think I remember looking down the hallway, and then I saw you like just a brief moment as you were just going into the living room. I was like, oh, who's that? Yeah, interesting.
I remember you and Wooly too. Wooly was only small then, eh?
Yeah, Conan was with us then?
Not at that stage.
Oh, okay.
Not that I remember, but not long after. Yep. Definitely remember Wooly with the fringe cut like this and big smile.
You would have been really young then.
Actually, you're starting to bring back some memories then when meeting you as well.
The French.
Yeah. And I guess just a memory coming is when I first started to meet you and Wooly was...
Yeah, what was that like?
Yeah, it was a bit scary at the start actually meeting Mum and Dad, but Dad is a big softie anyway.
Yeah.
He is. But I guess from meeting you was more the fact that I think I was doing a project at the time and I was drawing a Nike shoe or something, and I was doing some sort of advertising and that. And I guess you already liked art at the time.
I've always,
you
always been doing.
Yeah, and I had that, and you were looking at the shoe and all that sort of stuff there, what I had drawn. And it was only a first memory, but it was more the fact that I could remember that you liked art and how much that progression sort of happened over years. And that's been an amazing journey to watch too, I've loved watching that, and, obviously around the house, all the stuff that goes around the house as well too. But yeah.
Well, what do you remember back then? Because you're refreshing my memory now.
Yeah. Look, a lot of the drawings on the fences, on the house itself. So obviously been a blessing that mum and dad were able to allow that to flourish as well, you know.
Yeah.
So
very open-minded, my parents.
Oh, they are.
At times.
I'm not sure if we're going to get into much of that discussion, but they're definitely a blessing for sure.
Yeah.
So I watched that, and I guess another fond memory at an older age was you coming over to Sydney and going through with the whole concert. What was the name of that concert?
Polyfest.
Was it Polyfest? Yeah.
Yeah.
Was the name that? That was pretty amazing, actually, to watch you get involved in that. That was awesome, and your team coming over. Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
It was good times.
It is. It has been. It has been.
You know, like I'm just all these memories come flooding back. One of the most I wouldn't say vivid, but exciting memories that I have is when we went to Rainbow's End. That was my first time at Rainbow's End. And I think, first time that I could recall, because apparently I went when I was a child, like a baby. I don't know if the stories are true. My dad used to say when I was a baby, I would go on the roller coaster. I don't think that's true, but when I was just before like becoming a teenager, it was you, Leah, and I think Nadia and myself, and we went to Rainbow's End. Do you remember that?
I can't.
Yeah?
I can't even remember, to be honest.
That was like a big deal in my life.
Wow.
Because ever since then, I've been just theme park, you know? I just have this love of theme parks. Like I just love roller coasters.
Actually, it's funny you say that. You're only just talking about that yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, and it all stems from that Rainbow's End trip.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. I remember. I still remember the feeling, you know?
Wow.
And I recall having a waffle,
Really?
caramel waffle, with cream. And I think ever since then, that's why I'm such a big cream caramel guy. Because I think I must associate the feelings, you know? Yeah, it was like a magical time for me.
Okay.
Know? Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, wow. Yeah, because for us, Ray and I, again, because we're very motherly and fatherly, even though I'm quite choleric sort of a person but we like to take all our nephew and nieces out as well, you know. And look, thanks for sharing that. At least it sort of showed that it made a bit of a difference that way, you know.
Oh, it's a huge impact, you know. Yeah,
that's cool, man. Yeah. But can't say I helped you with any of the music side of things, guys, because I think I'm one of the only Kiwis that can't sing or dance, bro.
Not enough help available.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool, man.
Yeah, that's a big one. I remember that. Always remember that.
Yeah, look, I can't say I like too many rides, man. Played league in that, got concussed so many times, thought I could tackle everyone.
Yeah.
Wasn't necessarily the case, but yeah, get on a ride now, I'm sick.
All right.
I'll leave that for the last thing of the day, and then Rhea's going to drive me home.
Oh, maybe the Gold Coast theme park's not for you then,
I think we'll get up there because, look, we just missed that trip.
Yeah.
Just this week, not last weekend, to celebrate. But yeah, I want to get up there. Definitely want to be there with you guys.
It'd be good for all of us to go, you know?
Have to be our next trip, you reckon?
Maybe.
I guess that brings us into even the trip. I guess that family trip in Raro was pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah. So we went to Rarotonga for Dad's 60th. That was your first time in Raro, yeah?
It was.
That was an awesome trip.
It was awesome. It was awesome having that connection from Dad.
Yep.
But also my own roots where my dad's mum is from Raro as well. So it was the first time, was quite significant that way to celebrate. in actual fact, that was the catalyst to try and get Mum back as well.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, so
And she made it.
She made it there for her 60th as well. So thank you for that, Ray, for planting the seed.
Well, I always try to encourage a lot of people to go there, especially if they might have some connections or roots, you know. It's an eye-opener too, you know, just how similar the culture is, and maybe even the roots that you may not be aware of, you know. And it's a beautiful place, you know.
It is. Quite relaxing, eh? The lifestyle's very different.
I love that tropical weather, you know.
Love that airport where you got to sort of get behind the airplane as well.
Yeah. Get blown away.
Yeah.
Scooter gang.
The scooter, that was pretty cool. But yeah, having that connection was awesome. Having the family there to celebrate too was next level, for sure, you know. Good to celebrate that with all the family. I remember Andrea sitting at the birthday dinner.
Yeah?
Yeah, she was only young then.
She would have been like...
Yeah, maybe 3.
Yeah, 3
maybe. She was 3. She's sitting at the table there, we were all eating, and she didn't want something there. She had a plate and she threw it behind and it smashed. Oh, how embarrassing that was. But anyway, yeah, that's good.
I do remember Call Me.
Better not share that one. I'll leave that one for you, bro.
I'll leave that one for Mum.
Yeah.
Mum can share that one.
That might be her next podcast. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
It was a beautiful time to have the family around. Because I've been trying to get Dad to Rarotonga for many years, you know, especially with his mother being directly from there, you know. And I think only Uncle Joe's probably. Oh no, there's a few now. Yeah.
Had it been?
Yeah. Auntie Joy, Uncle Joe. Yeah, no, there's a few now. But maybe all of us should go. Yeah.
It sounds like we might have to plan it again one day when this COVID stuff slows down and allows it to happen. Auntie Katie, that was cool seeing her there. Auntie Elaine. Hey, all turning up there for Dad.
Yeah. That was fun. Fun times.
It was. Geez, that's a big passion of yours though, eh, travel?
Oh, huge. Yeah, I love travel. But can't stop talking about it. So where's a place that you would like to go? Say if you had like an all expenses paid trip.
Look, good question. So look, I've discussed this with Rhea a little bit. For me.
Not for you.
Oh, come on.
You're the star of the show.
Stars here. Anyway, I'll say that anyway because we're always talking about I really want to get Rhea and Andrea to Disneyland.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely want to get there for sure. As much as Rhea will say that it's for Andrea, it's really for her because she's the princess.
You're the prince.
Come on.
But yeah, Disneyland, that's a big one.
Yeah, Disneyland, definitely. America, we want to get there. Our family is there, but in saying that, Aim and Bob have come back to New Zealand now. But yeah, I'd love to get to America because you've always spoken of America highly.
America. As an eye opener, yeah,
for sure. For starters, that way.
Yeah.
Sean,
an eye opener.
Yeah, Sean obviously still there in San Fran. But having connections in overseas for me, Andrea, it's good to have that because I guess from my personality, I enjoy a bit of comfort knowing that someone's there. But it's all part of the growth as well too, you know. I'm sure we can discuss that stuff a little bit differently, but I'd love to get to America just to experience what's out there.
I love it for yourself.
Yeah, just to see it for myself, definitely. But I guess Europe is a big one, mainly to do with the history and stuff that's around as well. So yeah.
Any in particular? Kind of intrigues you?
Look, Paris, I'd love to get there as well because it's a significant icon. But Rome is a massive one I want to get to. Rome, definitely. About the culture.
Yeah, food, the culture.
Yeah, I wouldn't, not so much about the food, but I know it's a big part of you with your traveling and that. I love watching those stuff too, bro.
Italy's my favorite.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
What do you love about Italy?
The art, the culture, food, and just the whole vibe, really. Honestly, I think the food. Yeah, so I studied a little bit of the Renaissance. So when I went there, it was like, can't really describe the feeling, but to actually see it in person, you know, and you just get those moments to yourself.
Wow.
But just the whole place, like it's just like being in another world or another time, rather. Yeah,
Okay.
because you're surrounded by ancient ruins. You know, it's not really like ancient ruins and then modern town. You know, like ancient ruins and like old buildings.
What was the vibe with the people and the culture?
Yeah, beautiful people. Yeah.
Wow.
Especially if you try to attempt to speak Italian, I think they warm up a bit more to you. Yeah. They do say in Paris, though, people are a bit abrupt. And my theory is if you go to another country and you speak to them in a different language, then, you know, you kind of have to expect that that's rude, you know? And I think a lot of English speaking people just, they have the expectation that French people would understand English. You know, when you go, it's like if a French person came here to Australia, started speaking French to you, you know, you would tell them you don't understand, but then they'll reply back to you in stronger French, you know, like in a manner where, you know, why aren't you understanding me, you know? So yeah, French people are nice, I find.
Oh, look,
Actually, I came across a lot of nice French people. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, because Nadia went, sister, she went with earlier, and maybe a different mindset, but she said a similar thing in regards to Paris, saying that she felt that they were just trying to get the words correct because you don't want to offend anyone at the
Just
so
paraphrase.
it was more say that obviously they were staunch in their culture and as well, and understanding from what you've just said as well, I totally agree, is the fact that we're going into their country.
Going to their country, you know,
is to have that respect to actually understand, and a bit of learning would go a long way. And we expect that to be returned as well. Coming here to, obviously, English being, we're thinking as a universal language.
That's not really.
Yep. But I like what you said, because then you're looking at it from other people's perspective rather than just yours. So no, that's a great mindset. And in saying that too, I've been lucky enough to stay with you and Kate as well at your house, and we were lucky enough to stay in your room where it's got all the languages we're posted up on your wall, you know, and a map of the world behind as well, and very inspiring. In that fact is that pretty much opening up, because in what I was brought up, you know, Manurewa was the place. You know, as we might travel to Kaikui from where my grandfather's from, or Tawa, or might, you know, sort of quite restricted. So definitely something I aspire to as well, and trying to encourage to Andrea, you know, to try and make the world a bit smaller. But coming back to is the fact that I can see all the different languages that you've posted up on the room, and I really respect that, and you've said it there, you know. You're trying and learning, and even that conversation yesterday when we're catching up as a family, doing audios for 25 minutes in the car on the way, or on the way to work, or on the way home.
Yeah, language audio courses. Yeah, I love the feeling of connecting with someone, you know. I can't remember the exact quote, but I'll try to paraphrase it. It's like when you basically when you speak to someone in in a language, or if you speak to another person, speak to them in a language that they've learned, then it's like you're communicating. But then if you speak to them in their language, in their native tongue, then you see the love in their eyes, you know?
Mm.
Yeah. So it's like when I attempt to speak to someone in a different language, it almost feels like we're in this little bubble. It's like our own little universe. Yeah. So I love that feeling. And so yeah, that's why I'm trying to become a polyglot of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it.
Do you think that
Connecting with the people.
Do you think that could be duplicated just in us that speaks English as well? Is that there's a certain way to communicate that you have that connection, or are you thinking that's more that you've made that effort? You made that effort in a different language.
Yeah, there's that as well. There's the appreciation too, you know. And I think to a large degree, when you're learning another language, it's not as native to you. You know, you're just learning key phrases that similar to phrases that you know from your own language. So that's what I mean by you're just communicating. You know, like someone saying one thing, you understand it, and then you're replying back with something that you think fits. It's just like it's just like a back and forth. But when you speak to someone your native language fluently, then I guess more emotions are behind it because it's just more nuances in the meanings, you know? Like, you know, if we go back home and we speak real Hori to some guys, you know, we understand it, you know, but there's emotions and I guess maybe even memories behind it from like similar upbringings. That's just what I'm thinking right now. But if you're learning a language, you don't have all that context behind you. You know? So like if you have all that context of your upbringing and all the memories and all the emotions behind all the phrases and words, and then you're learning over here a new language, and then you're taking this phrase or this word and you're trying to marry it up with what you know. When you actually go to speak to someone, like you got nothing behind all these phrases in that world. I think that's.
I love that. I love that. And what I'm trying to look at the moment anyway is, and I've sort of briefly discussed it before with you, is speaking with my grandfather. So I'm looking at that level too, is to go, wow, how do I connect with my grandfather who's 94 and speaks fluent Māori? And so I can't speak it at all. And how do you get to that next layer of communicating too? Look different because I'm his grandson and that too. But it's at another level, I guess, too, to have that understanding. That's one aspect, but I love what you're saying too, is to say that when you're learning the language is not to try and put the English phrases into the French phrase. You've got to understand what the culture and what history is behind it, so they might articulate it differently. You know, so I think that's awesome. And for me, and yourself, I guess we come from a leadership background in our jobs as well, is to understand how do you communicate best to your team. You know, and whether it be teams that are at same levels or at higher levels, is getting that communication, you know, from an understanding perspective, rather than the mindset of what you think is the message, is trying to get it so they can understand it.
Oh, that's a good point. It's like, I think the best way to approach like leading a team, first figure out what the motivations are for each individual. And then once you have an idea, then you can build towards kind of like how to tie it all up as a team. A company is just a group of people. So if you can figure out what motivates each person in their role, then you know you can work out how to become more efficient. Then also on top of that, you have to identify the roles too, I think is important because a lot of people like to overstep. Oh, no, that's a good one. Talking about leadership in teams, because you're quite a natural leader, you know. I think I do learn a lot from you, Gord, you know. I've learned quite a lot from you, you know, just growing up, because I was quite young when you got introduced into our lives. So almost like a father figure, you know. But now we're like bros now.
Yeah. But isn't it an interesting journey too, though, is what I'm learning more and starting to read a bit more as well, is that leadership is not age-based actually. You know, so for example, the mindset that you have and the learning and perspective that you place, and it's definitely not about how old you are anymore.
No.
You know, so in our culture, it definitely used to be that way. You look up.
In a lot of cultures, actually.
Yeah, I agree. But things are changing, not to say that you've got to place a big emphasis on experience, because that's very important. So, and when I reflect back on that, I always look at my grandfather and my mum, my parents, you know, and both our parents, and they're all good leaders, and they've learnt from what they know, you know. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's moving into another part of it is the ability of unlearning to relearn too. You know, so, but look, and the reason,
how do you do that?
I'll just say this though, yet to answer before that one was more to say that even though I've captained different sports sides and all that sort of stuff through my upbringing, and I have to sort of put that towards my mum and dad in regards to values and that too, and about integrity and honesty and all that sort of stuff as part of my leadership and work ethic, all that stuff. But I'm sort of saying for you now is I'm a lot older, you know, a lot older. Turning 45 this year actually, so
still young.
Still young. That way, I'm just saying in regards to time.
Get about 60 plus.
Look, I still feel young. I have no problems with that. But I guess what I'm trying to emphasise is that a big difference there in regards to leadership is nothing, because I could be doing something which I've learnt of late, the same thing for 10 years. I'm just repeating 1 year for 10 years, 10 times, rather than experiencing over 10 years that extra every year. And so what you've done in a short time has been pretty awesome, and watching you with your family too, it's been an awesome journey. So yeah, that's what I was just meaning about leadership. It's definitely not age-based, you know.
No, it's definitely not, no.
What was the question again?
How do you unlearn something for the older folks and probably ourselves eventually?
Yeah, that's a big question. And unlearning, and I guess giving an example is you could put it into regards to upbringing, for example. And what I was taught was discipline, for example, from mum, and she's helped me mold it into the person I am today. Say for discipline would be for our children is to smack, just for example, you know. And you and I have had discussions about this, and our family has gone through different parts of that as well, even though we've had a blessing, all of us. And it might be to actually, and then when I say smacking, into the point where some families actually hurt children physically, maybe mentally, but more the point of unlearning that is not actually going to be beneficial for our young children, our next generation. You know, it's understanding that it's more to encourage more loving rather than, and look, I still go through those journeys of with Andrea, my daughter, where I'm looking at her and she's doing something and making big noises in public, which we were out having dinner yesterday and all that sort of stuff. And my inner self is saying, be quiet, sit down and all that. And I'm going to give you a smack on the hand or something and all that sort of stuff. So unlearning, understanding that, yes, definitely have to be disciplined in a way to respect others, but more so that there's a better way, always opportunity to learn. So when I'm saying unlearning is more to say that not to hurt them, to get the strap out and whack a hand and all that sort of stuff, is that there's another way of talking through them and understanding who they are and what's the best way to communicate to them. So that's just one example. But for me personally, for example, is the school education. I don't want to get too deep into that one, for example.
Why not? Let's get...
But just saying for school education, I'll just add a little bit in that part of it, is it's definitely amazing to have a good education, and that's what I'm teaching Rhea and I actually, and Rhea's a big part of that. She's a lot more intellect than I am. And that's what's amazing watching her as a mother with Andrea, is teaching her that education is very important, but it's not necessarily the only way. So if I was to say, for example, doing more reading, listening to audios and podcasts, which is amazing. If you're listening to certain people, what they're teaching you now, it's more about the experience. So for example, in business, which I'm not that way inclined yet, but I'm willing to learn, and I know you are. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, we're both very keen.
Very keen. But I think ultimately it's more what's best for us and our family, you know. But understanding that there's other opportunities, and what I was trying to say is, if you can learn, it's not necessarily about what you know, it's about also is who you know. So I've heard you talk before about networking and that too, but for example, say if you had the opportunity to meet anyone in the world that's a fantastic entrepreneur, say Elon Musk, or, you know, or anyone. Sit down and I think you can learn a lot more. So what I'm saying is, if you surround yourself around the right people, and we're starting to talk more about mentorship as well, and understanding that we do love our parents. So for example, I'll say, because mum and dad, they were brought up that what was more important is that they had work and provide for the family, you know, because mum come from nine children, for example, so was to get to work as soon as you can.
Survival, isn't it?
It is, but to change that mindset that, okay, what can we do? Education, definitely a fantastic vehicle, but I'm just saying that there's other ways to get there too, you know.
Yeah,
and if you can have the right people around, and if you're willing to be open and listen and learn, like yourself, you know, that there's many opportunities out there too.
I think that's the answer there, Gord, is having the willingness to be open and always be open. Even if you believe that you're 100% correct, always give the benefit of the doubt almost approach, you know, is, well, what if I'm not? And I think once you adapt that way of thinking, I think that's the only way to relearn something. It's being open to possibilities.
Yeah, totally agree. But again, education system is important for us to make sure we have that foundation for sure.
Yep.
But yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, mentorship, that's a good one, you know. I think personally, business is the strongest way to get out of a rat race, as you would say. But, you know, from a young age, the education system teaches us the opposite. You know, teaches us to put more importance on a job rather than a fulfilling career, as you would say. So yeah, that's one thing that I want to help educate people, is to figure out other paths, you know, because there are many paths. But to do that, it all comes back to knowing yourself. So yeah, there's a lot of layers there.
There is, and we're talking purpose and what you're good at, and
that's why
what you
I love
enjoy.
Talking about purposes, because once you've identified your purpose, everything just revolves around that, you know, like the center. Then you just add the layers on that. Without the purpose, you know, layers will go anywhere, everywhere. It doesn't stick.
Yeah.
So what do you think your purpose is, Gord?
I was going to ask you the same question. Yeah,
I'll answer after you.
Okay. And look, it's a fantastic question, and for me, To reflect on that, my purpose definitely is, firstly, it really is about passing it on to my family. So my goal is to be the best version that I can be, right? That's definitely what I'm working on and trying to do the readings and the audios. And as much as I said how old I was, and there's no time to start whenever, no better time to start than the present.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been a little bit of a journey that's been happening. So my purpose is to get the best knowledge, to be open to learn, and make sure I look. Ultimately, for me, and what you're doing, Ray, is I'm watching that in the background, and we've had discussions as well as a family, and we had an incident with one of our family members, and we may discuss that too, being sick and that, and we've had to sort of rethink about where we are as a family, and ultimately for me is to think, what's the best that I can do that can somehow pass on a legacy for us. So look, again, I've been watching very closely, and we've been talking about stuff too, about different opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately for me is to be the best version of a father, husband, all that sort of stuff there. I definitely want to do that. Still tweaking all those sort of things, because it's never end destination, as we've discussed before too.
It's ongoing, yeah.
It's definitely something that's constantly evolving in that. So that's a big part that I can but the main thing for me is to pass on something. Pass on something as a legacy based, whether it be some financial, whether it be a business, whether it's all the values that we learn, like my dad. So I comes back to what my dad not intentionally did, but he was there to help people, coach people, be there in the community, all that sort of stuff there. And to see that actually happen at his funeral, it sort of comes back every now and again. I go, wow, my dad was pretty awesome. And then the discussions and stuff that I've had with other people along the journey that I get to meet and associate with, and I think, far out, man, it's pretty amazing. And for me is for that to happen, but it's the main thing is to sort of pass it on to my family and look after our mums and dads and sort of stuff, is to have that ability to keep providing for them. And look, it's an ongoing journey, on an ongoing journey. Still haven't figured that one out. Still haven't figured it out. Again,
99% of people haven't figured it out.
But again, what I said before was just to start somewhere and just to keep moving forward. But my main purpose is to look after Andrea, Rhea, all our families and that as much as I can, and where best I can is to pass that on to them and our future generations, which is what you said on your first podcast, which I was lucky enough to listen to with Mum, and that's such an amazing thing that you can pass it on.
Part of the purpose. One thing I've learned recently is a term called OKR.
OKR, okay.
So what that is objective key results. And it's just a method that people use, they implement to for results, basically. So for example, you have to objectively look at what you want to achieve. So it's like identifying what you want to achieve. And then the key would be like a target. So you know what you want to achieve, but then you have to put something measurable in there to know, and you have to be very specific. And so once you do that and you implement it, then I suppose that's how you get the results over time, by building on it. They always say a plan without measurements is just a wish. It's a paraphrase, but so yeah. So with you saying like your purpose is to take care of Andrea and Rhea and your basically your family, what's a measurement you could implement there so you can track your results? That's something that I always have to remind myself, because I say all these things like, oh, I want this, I want that, this will be nice for us and that, but I always remember, like, I would just always be thinking that without actually achieving even steps to get there. So that's why I just thought, like, this could be a good discussion to come up with some measurements, I suppose, because I think a lot of people would relate to exactly what you said. You know, pretty much everyone I speak to, they want the best for their family. You know, myself included. But what do we put in place to make sure that actually something gets done in an objective way?
Look, that's a great question. Great question.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, look at none. I don't think everybody has the answer for that sort of stuff, and we're starting to go into a different bit of a mindset in regards to. Yeah. So, for example, I think what you're trying to say is success is a planned event, and for that to happen, like you say, we're setting goals. And that in place, which I see, look, we're caught up at New Year's and I see you sitting at the table with your diary and you're writing down your goals.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so we're setting goals, which I see you do, which is great. And again, I think what I'm trying to do, and it's only just been relatively new, is more the process. So, yeah, definitely we're going to need goals. I've heard you talk also about reaching certain goals and that you'll travel around to certain countries and you'll hit them and sometimes not feeling that fulfilled sometimes.
No, all the time.
Sometimes. So what I'm trying to learn now by reading certain things, and again, I can hear what you're saying. It's all good to have a plan, but what are we implementing in place so that you can measure the results?
Well, yeah, what is the plan? Exactly.
Yeah. So
we have the ambition. I think a lot of us talk about the ambition side.
Yeah. So look, there's a couple of things in the pipeline which are deciding whether to go a little bit further, because I guess the first thing anyway is obviously we've got a plan A, which is our jobs. You know, so our jobs are there, and that's I guess a constant.
Like stepping stone.
It's a constant for us to know nothing's ever 100% constant. But I'm just saying our jobs is something that we go to every day. And look, COVID sort of reflected that it's not always safe, you know, for a job. So we have our jobs and that gets us through. We know how much money we're getting. We know what our salary is and all that sort of stuff. I think but
you're growing at the same time too.
You're growing and you're doing your leadership. You're doing experience that we're talking about too. And we're trying to implement things that we're reading. For me personally anyway, sharing my story is some of the leadership books that I'm reading, how I implement in that. So it's a bit of a testing ground. But I guess coming back is having a plan B. So for me, there's a couple of things, and we've discussed about a few things in the background, and I'll just highlight this quickly, and I'm not sure if it's something we want to bring up, is that Dad.
Oh, yeah.
So talking about Dad having a stroke.
Yeah.
About 10 months ago.
Must be.
Yeah, about 10 months ago.
That's wow. Doesn't feel that long. But.
Wow, yeah. So we had Dad had a stroke, and we had to catch up as a family. Not had to, we wanted to catch up as a family.
Well, it was kind of like an emergency catch up, I think.
Oh, definitely. So we're all here in Melbourne catching up, and won't go into too much of that detail unless you want to.
That's all right, yeah. But share it.
But I don't want to miss the point too there, though, is that Dad had a stroke. We caught up as a family, and financially we're trying to sort out how we're going to make this work for us as a family, you know?
Yeah, because you had my mother, my brother, my grandmother living under the roof, and my father, who had the stroke, was the sole provider, basically. And so he had stroke and was told, well, lucky he survived for one, but then was told that he will never work again. Sole provider of this household. So we had to have an emergency meeting. We all got together and we had a big discussion.
So part of that discussion is how do we make this work for us? You know, so what the point I was getting to, we might touch on that a bit more, but the point I was getting to is obviously we all have our plan A income, And then COVID hit not long after that as well. Is what can we do in the background that we can supplement our plan A and to also help with that as well?
Yeah.
You know, so situations like that.
Setting up side hustles, you know?
Pretty
So
much.
I always encourage friends and family is like, always try, like we have the time, you know? We have the time, but let's invest that time into something meaningful that will, you know, pay dividends, or, you know, will just get us to where we always talk about where we want to be going, and, you know, to back up the talk of the ambition. A lot of us spend a lot of time watching Netflix, or, you know, or doing some other time consuming thing where you can still fit that in, but those times where you would just absolutely waste, reinvest that time back into, you know, a side hustle, or, you know, an alternative to just having a 9 to 5.
Exactly. And so that part of the journey, and that sort of highlighted the reason why it was necessary to have something separate.
Yeah.
Because coming back to my purpose,
It was like a reality check.
It was a check for us as a family, you know, and as individuals too, to see how we could contribute and what value we could have for the family at that time too. So having that side, that highlighted a few things at the time too. So look, I'm in a bit of a journey at the moment, which I'm still going through at the moment, and pretty much we've spoken about that before. And so there is a bit of a there is, but we've also spoken about what we can do as a family too for my brother-in-law and brother William and that too. And look, I just wanted to highlight at the moment, say for William as well, the fact that in that situation, how he stepped up with a lot of encouragement from all of us as a family, and really stepped up and went out to work. So he's also 28 and hardly worked, but that's another story we can talk about at the time, because
he was a full-time gamer, not getting paid.
And isn't it amazing that we talk about having plans in place? What have we got in place? How do we measure results and all that sort of stuff? So it was obviously a wish. And look, he was doing studying. He was in New Zealand doing all his studying and that, and he's lived over there by himself and that while the family were here. And he's tried. But what sort of plans do we put in place, you know? So I highlight William because the fact that he stepped outside his comfort zone and really went out there and had to do the mahi. He had to do the work, you know, and physically stepped up.
Wasn't easy, as you know.
It wasn't easy, and still not to this day. So that's inspiring to me as well, that him for at his level at 28 years old and having to get back out there and actually start working, and he had that purpose of helping to contribute towards the family, and then as a byproduct,
brought it back to survival.
It was forced, and again we talk about goals in that, whether it's something that we're forced into or something that is we're scared of, or something that we aspire to for goals as well. But tying it all back in, so yes, definitely a plan B involved for us personally too, and going through that journey. We have got some measurements on that at the moment too.
That's good.
But what I'd like to say with that is to actually start and doing something, you know, and not to say that it is going to work, but I can tell you it definitely works for certain people, and certain mindsets, and how strong is your purpose. So ultimately, when we're talking about purpose, ultimately our most important commodity is time.
Yes.
Our most important commodity is time. And for me, ultimately I talk about financially helping the family, but my ultimate wish would be, and you said wish because it's part of a plan and got to have results too, is to have the time to share with your family and have the financial backing to do that too.
So I was saying that's more the ambition. As we would always talk about, you know, this is what the scenario would look like. But what I'm saying is the OKR, it says, what are the steps? You know?
So the steps, for example,
and you'll have many steps in like your side hustle.
And the side hustle would be, for example, is that you have to read for 30 minutes a day.
Yeah, like something like that.
So for me is also just as a part, and that's only about, that's not the implementation at the start. That's only part of that's not the action part. The part is that's just a step. And then, for example, for me now is making sure that 5 days a week I'm up doing some sort of physical training, whether it's a bike, so get up before 5 because I start early. Make sure I'm up before 5. I'm doing my 20 minutes on the bike as a minimum. You're up. You're planning everything. So I like what you're saying. So for me now, as I understand that time, and I heard you say about we've all got time, but not everyone sees that. You know what I mean? You've got to actually got to break it down so that you've got time that you've allocated, and you've got to find those pockets that are very important. That if it is towards your purpose, you have to find the time. You know, you've got to make the time. And what Ray's saying is you've got the time. You've got the time.
Well,
so
Gary V says, audit your time. What do you spend your time on?
Yeah, so coming back for me personally is, yes, I'm up before 5. Do your bike. You're having a shower. In actual fact, it's a cold shower as well. And that's part of getting up because I can't make the bed because Ray's still in bed, you know, because I wanted to do the little things because what it is making sure, and I'm reading a book at the moment called Atomic Habits. Great book. Recommend it. It's a shout out for that book there too. And
Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Not sponsored.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah. But pretty much what it is is just doing those little things and getting started and not looking at a massive significant change that you have to do because sometimes it's going to make it harder.
Yep.
So if I'm just doing the little steps. So yeah, we've got measurable results in there, and there's some difficult stuff that I have to do in regards to talking to certain people and that. And yeah, that might be for another podcast because I'm still going through that journey at this stage here. And yeah, but putting it out there, definitely a side hustle there too. And we've spoken also about a few things on the side too. And I love, that's part of the inspiration you give me as well, is the fact that you've put yourself out there doing the podcast. And that's awesome, man.
Get used to it.
Yeah, but look, I think in all honesty, is you can't just rely on a plan A. I think, and we have to find something. I think that's what maybe this whole journey is part of this podcast, is we might get people talking about certain things as well, that there might be opportunities out there.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Not necessarily for me, but for other people as well.
Yeah,
you know,
people will relate, you know. Who
I
knows
think
how
so.
many people will come across the messages that we talk about, you know? And that's going to have an effect, a flow-on effect.
I hope so. And
pretty sure.
Yeah, just like you said about the going to Rainbow's End, how that's had a flow-on effect there, and that's really stunned me, to be honest. The first time you've actually shared that, so no, I'm quite chuffed by that. But yeah,
I think only Kate knows.
Yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, so for me,
that small thing meant nothing to you, almost. You know, it was just like a nice. Well, not nothing, but it was like a nice gesture to take us out as little kids and have fun. It had like a long-lasting life effect on me, you know, like a positive one.
That's it.
So by having these discussions, you know, we're going to have some effect on other people, and hopefully it's positive.
Yeah, that's true, Ray. And I think what we've talked about before is what our intentions are behind whatever we do. So our intentions are pure and honest. I think it comes back. I'm a strong believer in that.
Once you do that, all right, you know, once you're honest and you know that your intentions are pure, then you know.
Yeah, and I guess I would like to at this stage, because feeling a bit more relaxed now. Not to go and it takes a bit more when you start to focus on us, because I'm not used to this sort of stuff. Being quite introverted that way is. And I talk about mentoring side of things, for example, and what I like to highlight too is mentors, I guess, is you can have them in work, which I've been blessed with at work as well. I've got a couple of people around work there too. So again, they've been through and done the journey, so they actually got the fruit on the tree. You know what I mean? And that's what I look for. It's not about, and I guess that's what you're saying too, is okay, what are we talking about? Is there any results that come from that sort of what you're talking about?
OKRs, like objectively look at like plan, and then and then you'll get key targets for the results. I suppose it's just like mini goals, but more specific. I think that's basically what it is, really.
That's awesome.
Yeah, OKR. It's just, maybe look it up.
We'll do this.
Because I've only just stumbled upon it. I thought, oh, that's cool.
Pretty simple though. It's pretty simple. So you got mentors, say at work and that, and I'll highlight a couple. Say Wayne, as a superintendent, and I know you won't like me to share this, but I will, for example, is that he wasn't well educated as such, but he's now my boss. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to reflect on as well, is the fact that he might have not been educated in the schooling education system, but he's a superintendent of all, say, Sydney, for example. And what it was just, again, hard work.
It's not the only place to get educated,
That's it. And then,
the real world is probably the best way to be educated, in my opinion.
I believe that. But not to knock education, because it suits some people too. Because some people might not be as outgoing that can talk and connect to people like you. So say, for example, and certain engineers might be a designer sort of a person, and they might only like to sit in the office and not go out and connect with people, because they'd rather design and do structural stuff and then say, yep, this is how I'll produce. Look, now I can look at a bridge that I've designed, but I'd prefer not to talk to people. Yeah. And then I have another divisional manager, Paul, and what he is, he's educated. So he has his degree, and but he's very all-rounded sort of a person, and I learned so much from him too in regards to mentorship stuff too. So, and what he comes back to is more about relationships. Yeah,
I like with people. Yeah,
with people, and a bit like what you're highlighting. Important. Yeah, and he says, you know what, the easy part, Gordon, is building the job. He said the hard part is dealing with the people.
Yep. Because to get anything significant done, the team, it always comes back to the team. Most people that have done something, spectacular in their lives, if you dig a little bit under the surface, you'll see that there's a whole team behind people that do it. Even with athletes, it's not just one athlete or one sports person. They're like for fighting, for example. There's a whole team. There's a nutrition team. There's a cardio team, there's a resting team, there's people behind people that actually get something significant done in life. Sure. So that's pretty important to let you know that this is the area that you need to focus on to get some greatness done, is to work on relationships with people, and then as a team, accomplish something,
I totally agree. You see that in all the sports sides. You see that everywhere, don't you? In the work environment. I totally agree.
I remember with Andrea's first birthday, we went to Sydney at a park. It was a big one, It was a bit wet, but a lot of people came. And I noticed just how many people came that had worked with you, and a lot of them, or all of them, were just saying great things about you, even though it's Andrea's birthday. So, you're a mentor to a lot of people, I'm sure.
Oh, look, I appreciate that, Ray. And I guess it comes back to just the values you've learnt, the behaviour you have, and that too, and that sort of to keep it simple, and be a good person. Yeah. But it really is I like to, and I guess it's to put it as what you do at work is who you are as a person, though. So if you're honest, all that sort of stuff too, and you care for other people, and that's what you're doing here, and this is what this is about as well. You want to connect with other people.
Your intentions is pure.
Yep. But I appreciate that, and look, grateful that you guys made the trip. Like even for her 5th birthday too, and we've been trying to get back and catch up and go to Queensland to celebrate too with Sophia and Evan.
There should be opportunities.
Oh, I definitely will. We know that's going to happen though. But look, bringing it back too is you just have to appreciate what you've got too, because our family is amazing family, and not everyone has that. So very much a blessing. that we can share quality time, and and isn't it awesome that we can see our kids sharing time and they're running around and having
Running around the movies.
yeah, oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Memories,
And coming back to all that stuff as cousins, as brothers, and as my brothers, sisters, all that sort of stuff. Isn't it how important that stuff is for us growing up, and and then hopefully passing that on to our kids. So it'd be awesome to keep catching up as much as we can.
Of course.
Mm.
Hopefully our side hustles pick up a bit more faster.
Yeah. But in saying that, it's been an awesome journey for sure for all of us,
That's what I was just thinking is, the journey, like the conversation with Chris. Shout out to Chris.
Yeah, Chris
Spoke a lot about the journey, got quite deep with the journey. But that's, smelling the roses, as they say, it's so important.
Mm.
And I think what Chris was trying to say is, like, continuously smelling the roses is the best way to be in the moment, is what I got from him. And that's what I believe too. So, like, I always tell people, when you're at work, a lot of times people find themselves at work, they're dreading, being at work, and they're looking at the clock. And I always say those are the best moments to take it in, and like another thing I think about is when I hear people say, "Oh, the weekend went too fast," I'll always sometimes I say it's because you've been trying to rush the week, that the momentum, by the time it got to the weekend, you're in that mind state of just get it over and done with, And so by the time you're trying to slow it down, you're already back into the week. And then you want to speed up that week again by, just blocking out what's actually happening around you. So take it all and, slow everything down and just enjoy it.
I agree, man. I agree. Yeah, I listened to that from Chris too. I thought he had some awesome stories to share. In actual fact, you had some awesome stories to share as well. And I totally agree, because it's not about the destination, is it?
That's what we got into. I don't know if you heard the whole thing, but my point was, I used to believe that it was about the journey, but then I said to him, I think it's actually now the destination, and that destination is death. And that's when it got a little bit, got a bit deep.
Look, and yeah, it's a different mindset for sure, Ray, and
it is different, yeah.
It is. And
I used to think the other way was different.
Yep, and I like it, and that's what we talk about, perspective here, and it's about being open and honest in that too, And I heard you say that even the other day, and you're talking about the destination being death, and I'm still trying to figure that one out, to be honest, but isn't it awesome that I'll have the opportunity to allow us to digest that and put our thought process through it too? And coming back to Dad, for example, so I look at that and I think, well, death, okay, and it can get deep on that too at different levels, and being able to accept that, which was part of that podcast as well. And I guess to highlight a couple of things about you, Ray, and about your journey too. So obviously going through cancer, that was inspiring, and the fact, and even for us, is watching that, how much could we be part of that? Where are we, listening? How much should we be talking and communicating? It was a funny situation, and then COVID just of recently too, and having COVID for a couple of weeks, and then still having cancer in the background, you know what I mean? And just the body, and being able to cope through that situation, and Kate having the two beautiful children as well, and then trying to do work. So I've been listening and watching and thinking, how do we help? Just as an example with that too. But what I'm saying though is inspiring to go through that journey and listen to. And then you're talking about death, about how that you've accepted that death is the final destination, where I might come at it at a different angle. Look, definitely we're all going to pass at some stage. That's one of the only few definites in life, you know.
And taxes.
Yeah, taxes and death. And for me, definitely we will get there. But again, what happened with Dad was that he passed on that. It might be for us, our body and that too. And I'm not sure how far we'll get into this one, but I feel that it's whatever, it's everything that we've achieved or tried to achieve, and we might not achieve everything, but it's our story along the way. And then if that day comes and you're comfortable in yourself and who you become and that too, and what you've achieved, it's an ongoing legacy. It's ongoing because so I look at it differently. I don't actually look at death that way. I'm still going through that at the moment. Even this morning, walking and being with Dad and Willie and Rhea and Andrea and listening to Chris and enjoying each step. Okay, what's different here? What have we got here? So I took that from the podcast, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And just being with Dad, who's had the stroke, and actually watching him go to the road to see whether he can actually think where he's going, if he can look for vehicles, if he knows that destination he's going to reach, and if he can return back and come back home safely. So sort of watching all that happen today with the journey. But I feel for me at this stage, and we're just different with that too, is that I feel, we can get to death, but I feel that, that might be us. But I think there's an opportunity for things, whatever we put in place will continue.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Continue.
But when I say death, I just mean on like a personal path, you know, like your personal, like life, basically. Whatever happens after your life, that's going to happen organically, you know. There's not too much you can control, I don't think, after death. But from here till there, that journey is, you're going to get to that point. And so what I find is a lot of us, we don't acknowledge that part enough, make everything else worth it for journey. So I respect the journey so much that I've looked at the whole process right to the end. And I feel like a lot of people, they're saying it's more about the journey and they're focused on the journey, but then by not acknowledging the death, that people don't realize that, you know, for example, like my dad having the stroke, before he had the stroke, you know, we were all laid back, you know. There was no urgency to do things. There was no ambition to get Willie to work or, you know, things like that. But then once you suddenly realize, oh, death is a real possibility, but we already know that. Now we have to quickly put things together. Now we start moving and making, you know, action and making things happen to better the lives of our family. And that's what I mean is like, got to acknowledge the death and then work backwards. That's what, for me, that's what I'm doing, like personally. Everyone's different, so everyone's going to have a different take. You might have a different take, but I just find that once I had seriously addressed the possibility of me actually dying, then it made me address it in a way where I looked internal and thought, I'm going to die. And then I'm back in reality and I'm thinking, oh, well, before I do, what do I want to get done? How do I want to see this journey? And then I almost in an emergency gathering in myself, I came up with these plans. And I brought it back to where I am now. And that's what I mentioned earlier, is like I worked it out in 9 stages. So in these 9 stages is everything. Like I poured my heart out into everything that I want to get done. And what I mentioned in this podcast, the 9th stage is the world peace, where I see it. And so all the impossibles are put in these 9 stages. They're very personal to me. But I wouldn't have come up with this action plan had I not addressed the death and acknowledged it. So, yeah.
Okay, it's pretty cool.
But that's just me.
Is it? And again, just for me to understand.
Mm.
So it's almost like setting your goals.
'Cause-
It's like setting your, like you know what you want to achieve. It's like that destination.
We already,
and you're talking reverse engineering.
yeah,
That's what you're talking about.
Like, you all know that it's going to happen, yeah?
Yep.
So there's no debate there.
Yep.
So if we're not debating that it's going to happen, then the destination and this path, like my life, is that point. I have no control as far as I'm aware after that. But as far as I'm aware, that's the destination. So I'm like essentially living to die, not in a negative way, of course. Again, I appreciate the journey, and I'm always saying to enjoy it. I'm trying to enjoy this journey till I get there. So that's like when I realized, actually, for me, it is the destination. It's all about the destination. So that's my point of view.
Yeah, and again, just letting that flow in and trying to digest it in that too. Yep. Okay. And
You
again,
kind of understand that point of view?
I definitely understand where you're coming from. And I'm just trying to, and it's like the language you're talking about is how do I fit English into French?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I'm trying to get that perspective. I'm trying to let it wash over and be objective.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Good.
And that's what I'm trying to understand. And because, again, unlearning to relearn, because I know I feel a certain way. So I've got to try and be open for the perspective to actually gain that, what you're trying to do. So I understand that there's definitely that destination there, and we're talking, for example, I'm assuming what you're talking about too is delayed gratification. So you're delaying, you know you can't go to this place overseas at the moment because your plan is to do this step first, for example. So you've got your plan reversed, and I can respect that 100%. I can respect that, but again, it's for me to digest it and to understand.
I'm open to hear.
And it might not happen here today, but it
That's all
gives
right.
me an opportunity to sit back, reflect, and look at it. And then I'm sure we'll have another opportunity to catch up, even whether it be podcast, whether it be on the phone, Zoom, whatever it is. So we know we'll be catching up soon.
But while I got you here, it's good that it's fresh in your mind. So when you hear me speak like that, that I identify that death is inevitable, per se. And then you hear me say, once I personally like kind of woke up to the reality, that it was almost like having a internal emergency, meeting with myself to come up with the action plan. That action plan, I came up with a arbitrary number 9 just because I love the number 9. And so I came up with like, a 9-stage plan almost. And if it, if I achieve something in the later stage, it's all right. As long as like the overall, then it's like I'm content with my life then. And that is like a very relieving feeling to have while I'm on the journey, actually. Because if I feel so passionate about this plan, this 9-stage plan, that even me doing it is almost like you say, like a delayed gratification. As long as that I'm doing it, like I feel like I'm immersed with the plan. And so like when you hear me say that, what kind of like and I want you to be honest and open, like what bowels maybe do you have with that?
For me personally?
Yeah.
For my journey?
Right or wrong, it's just important to get your perspective because that's what this is about.
Yep. Okay. And so, no, great question.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll start with what my idea is for you personally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very courageous, to be able to put yourself out there. And I guess, like you said before too, that's all been part of who you are and going through COVID and cancer and having the blessing of your children and Kate, and to get to that point.
Mm.
To actually get to that point and is courageous, I think, and even to the point that you put yourself out there and you're talking that your big purpose is about world peace. Such a massive, massive vision, and then I look back at some people that have had visions before too, Martin Luther King and all that too, and you think, wow. So to actually have a vision like that is very impressive and inspiring because not everyone and in a public forum can actually do that. But when you believe in yourself and that you've got a progressive plan, and we talked about this the other day, it's not about perfection, it's about progression, about doing little bits and pieces, whether you get there or not. You've got a process in place. Of very inspirational, and I know these conversations is going to be a massive significance to both Sophia and Evan too, and if God, anyone else that comes along. Anyway, That's another story, right? That's another story, and not just them, but to Andrea, to me, to all our families. So to have that vision and be bold enough, I respect that immensely. So that's what I want to say first and foremost. So for coming back for me personally to look at that, it's an eye-opener. Mm-hmm. So I only heard it the other day, and hang on, is it because you've gone through that stuff? Where do I look at it for myself? Mm-hmm. And I know it's inevitable. Everyone knows it's inevitable that that's going to happen. And for me, to be honest, I'll put it in a different perspective or a different light, and I reflect on this even walking today with that. And I think, what happens if I die tomorrow?
Exactly.
And I look at that and I think, am I going to be happy with the life I've created now? Am I happy for what I've left for my daughter? Mm-hmm. Am I happy for what financially I've got in place for Rhea and Andrea? Have I got my insurances up to date? As much as this sounds bloody
that's all part of
shallow,
your plan. No.
But
it's not shallow at all.
I'm just saying for me is I want to go back. I'm going to check all this stuff. Mm-hmm. So it highlights a few things there. Make sure that if something happens, that they're taken care of. Rhea and I because we've had some inevitable and families passed away, aunties and uncles and that too, and you think some families haven't had the money to pay for the funeral expenses, for example. So Rhea's gone through and made sure we've got our insurances up to date and we've got our funeral expenses are paid for and all that sort of stuff. So God forbid none of our family are going to be in that situation. So we started to put all that stuff into place as well already. And that was probably after what happened with that. So reflections on that stuff too. I know that's definitely a destination. And for me personally, in breaking it right down, I've never looked at it that way. In actual fact, I've always...
everyone I've spoken to has never...
Which is good to have the thought processes happening and starting to consider that, because your intentions are very pure.
It is.
Your intentions, I believe, we know this is going to happen. What can we do in this time that we've got on earth that we can put together, we can make the most of it? So that's all started mentally in me too. So for me, what I was looking at, and I touched on this before, is how can I retire from work? Mm-hmm. To be honest, that's what all the side hustle and all that sort of stuff. Can I be retired Can I be retired at safe? And when I say retired, you're still going to be working in a different way, and you're still going to be providing, because you look at all.
Or retire from a 9 to 5.
That's what I'm saying.
Because it ties up. You're selling your time for money.
We're trading time for money.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're doing. We're trading time for money.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately for me I've already looked at can I be retired before, and the retiring age by the time it's, for me, I don't know, I think it's 67, 70, I'm not
Whatever
sure.
that number is, that's
But
a personal
just
thing.
saying, but personally it is to reduce that time down, whether it be 10 or 15 years.
Yep.
You know, so for me, the goal is to try and get that time back as soon as I can. And we've got plans in place. Look, if I definitely want to be retired by I'm 60. That's a long time. But coming back to what you've said there, I've got a few things in place at the moment, which we'll talk about a bit more. Ultimately, for me, is to get Rhea off work as soon as I can. That's the first and foremost step when we talk about steps. I want, and I don't know if anyone's going to be watching from her job, but I'll be ultimately trying to get her off in the next couple of years. So at least I know.
People that are watching are probably trying to get off as well. You know?
Yeah,
we're all trying to get
I'm
off.
talking about her job, but anyway.
Yeah.
But
her job. Trying to get off the job.
Yeah, off the job. So, but ultimately is to get her off so that she can have that time in as a husband, as a father.
It's been
And
quality
society
time,
has changed, hasn't it? So ultimately, when our parents and before our parents, it was that the male went and worked, and the mother was able to stay home and look after the children. Ultimately, because of expenses and that, and my way of life and expectations, just expectations and what we want to achieve, and have this property here, have this property here. So for me, is to reduce that back down. Don't have reduce our means. In other words, you know what I mean? Because we're both on good salaries and all that sort of stuff. Hang on, how are we utilising this? Do we need you to be working? What's my salary? What do I need to do? So our plan is to get her off work as soon as I can. Have that for Andrew, and the plan for me is to get off work as soon as I can. But look, that's all part of what you're saying. So it definitely starts to get those
like
emotional
It's like your stages, you know, like all the things that you've mentioned there. I have similar things that I've built into my stages in my plan. All I'm saying is, once you acknowledge and you respect death as the destination, basically it's like with Dad having the stroke thing. It just puts you into that mindset that makes you work differently instead of being passive in the approach. It kind of gives you a little tap to get going on it. And another important aspect of having that mindset is that it's actually exciting. Once you know, like, gotta put these things in place, and you're actually doing steps, and it all is contributing towards that destination. It actually makes things, I find, like very enjoyable. And so then it just feeds back into the journey. So, like I said to Chris, it's the journey and the destination at the same time. It's like you acknowledge that death is the destination. That reinforces enjoyment of the journey, feeding like feedback. But that's how I feel like in life. And so I'm trying to pass it on. And that's why I'm very hung up about like getting your perspective. You know, what do you like when you hear me say that? Like, what kind of things are coming off on your mind? You know, that maybe I haven't thought about. You know, or a side that I haven't really thought about. So that's why it's important to talk about. You know.
Oh, it is. It is. Like I said, to have that courage to do that and have those discussions is amazing. And for me, like I said, still going through that thought process because it's hard to unlearn.
Yeah, it's
such a
big
short
one to get your head around.
It is. It is.
For one, a lot of people don't, like what Chris was saying, a lot of people don't like to think about death. It's almost like a negative omen. It's like, you want to block it out mentally. But I say, give it respect. You'll be rewarded in some way, I feel. Like I said, it actually it's making the journey more enjoyable. Now it's tied to this purpose, you know? And the purpose for me, I've created myself. 9 stages. And death is the destination. So death is the destination. Like you said, we all know that. And when you acknowledge and respect it, I feel that it makes things more enjoyable. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, again, still got to get my head around it a bit. I can understand that, but I guess it's for my reflection. How do I put myself into that discussion and that feeling there? Yeah, it's eye-opening, that's for sure.
We'll definitely continue this talk.
Oh, definitely. We're definitely going to have to catch up a bit more about this, you know. But look, appreciate you spending the time and part of your journey doing this, you know. It's
we all have our journey, you know. You've had a lot of things go on in your life.
Yeah, we have. But I think everything is a blessing, I believe, you know.
Yeah.
And we talk about adversities and challenges and that, and it's pulling through those to find what lessons we actually get from it too. And there's many other things to share. I hear you touched on suicide, and I've had that sort of experience too. But we can touch on quite a few things. Not for me personally, but for close family members and all that too. You know,
it's very common.
It's crazy.
Uncomfortably
Not when
common.
I say sorry, not crazy. What I'm saying is more common than what we think.
It is
more common.
Unfortunately.
And in our culture in New Zealand. We're on a high rate in the whole world, you know.
Per capita, I think.
Per capita, we're up there.
One of the highest.
Yeah, if not the highest, but we're up there, 1 to 3, that's for sure.
Not a good thing to be proud of, I think.
Definitely not. So I guess it's just saying that there's plenty of opportunities, you know, to discuss that another time.
That's what this podcast is about, you know. What do you? I don't think we have the answers, but it's all part of unraveling the answers. What do you think? What do you think could help?
Suicide. Okay.
It's case dependent.
Oh, definitely. Each case is different. Look, again, listening to your discussion with Chris, and another shout out to Chris. Obviously, I've listened to it recently, so it's really in the head at the moment. I haven't listened to the whole 2 hours and 50 minutes yet.
Effect, you know?
Yep, it has, and yep. So I've been pretty blessed. Like I said, I've had a couple of family members that have actually passed away from committing suicide. The most recent one was a cousin that a few months older than I am, 5 children, and God bless his soul. You know, so yeah. So it wasn't that long ago, and I'll share a couple of things. So for that, with my cousin, was a very successful business owner.
Wow.
So he was
financially
very strong initially. So he was a bricklayer, very good at his art. Again, had 5 children, and I guess I just got to be mindful about if they had the opportunity to listen in that too.
Yep.
Love you guys. And I mean that. As much as you wish you were present, I guess as a family you're thinking how like I was saying to you, going through your adversities and challenges, how do you get involved? Maybe that's a question I could ask you as well, is what sort of support, how can people reach out in those circumstances when you're feeling down, you know? So my cousin was very successful in his business, built his own home, you know, and and then went through some situations with his relationship with his wife. And unfortunately, I don't know exactly what happened there, but when children are involved, it can be difficult as well.
Oh, extremely.
So having that separation side of things where, for whatever reasons, I'm not saying he was in the right or his wife was in the right or wrong.
And we don't know the details.
We're not going to go through the details because I wouldn't know everything that happened there as well, but only in a general sense. But what I get from that understanding is that he wasn't able to see his children, again, for whatever reason, whether he be in the wrong or not. And so mentally that really started to hurt as a father. And it would be vice versa as a wife as well if you're in those circumstances too.
Course,
and I put myself in those shoes as well. if God forbid, if anything like that was to happen too, you could feel the strong emotions, of not being able to connect with your children.
Yeah.
So what happened is that they went through a separation, and he wasn't allowed to see his children. And then he was seeing close to the children. And pretty much what happened is that he was taken to jail. So he was taken to jail, and then he's not used to that. Well, none of us are. None of us are. But when you're looking at all you wanted to do is see your children, then he was taken to jail, and unfortunately he committed suicide in jail. And for me, I look at it, how can you be present? And there's a lot of stories that come up towards that before it even gets there. How, as a family member, as a first cousin, how do you reach out? How do you reach out, and how do you make a difference? So I listened to Chris, and sometimes what he said in that podcast was, sometimes other people can't help it. It's actually internal, and not everyone's like that. And so that was a difficult situation there, and still the family is obviously going to be feeling that because it's only happened in the last couple of years. If that. And we've had another younger cousin commit suicide too, around about 18. She was 18, and that again was over relationships as well. But yeah, and a couple more as well, which is really unfortunate. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, how do you reach out?
Yep.
What sort of forums have we got? And what is actually available to us? Can family help? Is there, and I think can we put a support system in place? Is there things that we can recognize? So I've been through trainings where, for working in leadership side of things, is starting to recognize mental issues, but that only can go so far. And what I've understand and been taught from work is, and if you identify them, we're not professionals, similar to a lifeguard, that a lifeguard is trained to support if someone's out there drowning. However, if you don't know how to swim and you go out there and try and save the person, more than likely you're going to drown as well. So what it is trying to stay connected, definitely that they're aware that you're supporting us, from what I understand, but to try and encourage for them to seek professional advice. And with our culture, it's very difficult to accept that. And I think
even just talking is difficult.
It is, but I think hopefully forums like this and vehicles like this, that hopefully it starts opening up, that becomes more common.
Yeah, just like what Chris was saying, even his best mate, his best man at his wedding, his childhood friend, right until now, a few decades, he said even he couldn't go to him to talk because he just felt like he wasn't, I guess, educated in that field. Like he would, like his best friend wouldn't be able to relate. So he felt like he couldn't go to him. And I think that was a big eye-opener for me, is we have family members or friends that we love very dearly, but they may look at us like we can't help because we can't relate. And so I think the more that we talk about it, the more we educate ourselves about it, maybe that should hopefully help people open up to those that are closest to them. That could actually maybe make a bigger impact once they do connect. Because I think that's a big hurdle, is having people close to you actually reach out to you. But I think once they do, then I think that's where you save lives. And it's very hard to measure that, but the more that we can educate ourselves and actually talk more about it, I think the more it could help other people feel confident, actually reach out to close loved ones that can actually help them from feeling astray,
So what you're saying also is that it's more acceptable and not to be shamed,
let's
which
make
is
it acceptable.
Yep.
Because it did have a bit of a shame.
Oh, definitely. definitely. Even previous generations, talking with my grandfather, was if that actually happened, the person that committed the suicide, in some instances, they weren't allowed to be buried.
Stigma.
They weren't allowed to be buried in the
that's
cemetery.
A cultural thing, yes.
So they had to be buried outside or another cemetery, and it still happens
and
today.
That's a bit of shame on the family, and this and that, and transcends through generations.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and I like what Chris said too, is that it's actually a sickness. So it's not something that physically we can identify with a broken arm as such.
But in a way, it's kind of like very similar, mental health and physical health. We have doctors to look after our physical health, but the world has ignored the mental side for the most part.
Do you feel there's a change though? With COVID too, I'm sure that there was a lot more as well happening in regards to that, where people's, obviously with work as well, a lot of them lost work and
so many things probably did happen. I don't know all the stories, but I can only imagine if you lose your job, your income, and you have some kids and you're having relationship issues. COVID's probably not going to help that, So I'm pretty sure statistics probably increase.
I think the point is too, though, is that it's becoming more common, isn't it? And a lot more accepted. And when I say accepted, is that we can start talking. So they have the Black Dog Institute and that as well, where people starting to talk at work as well. And generally people at work, because you spend so many hours with people at work, is they can start seeing those subtle differences. So I love what you're trying to do there too, the podcast, is to get it out there.
Yep.
And hopefully it opens it up that surely we can, hopefully someone reaches out and gets the right help, to help produce that. I would love to be part of that movement in there anywhere where we could help. Again,
hopefully this is part of the, part of a movement, and it's just figuring out, because people don't want to reach out and then be rejected in a sense that they can't relate to you, So by us talking about how important it is and how it can be viewed as a form of a sickness that we need to nurture and take care, that people watching, can open up to the idea. And that will transcend and have a flow-on effect. So, it's positive,
Oh, it is. Just having the discussion, like you're saying, definitely can't be anything bad about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice, bro, for some the younger generation?
Jeez, such an open question, that one.
Well, you have the floor.
Not really anything inspiring as such. I think it comes back to the simple fundamentals of, really it's about getting up and getting started. I think that's really important, and it's all about little steps. I believe believing in yourself is very important. I believe surrounding yourself with the right people is very important. And you can think about that too. Obviously, having negative people around you, you're going to have the same mindset. I think what my question would be from people in that instance is, how do I find the right people? And I guess sitting here and talking and listening is we need more people to put their hand up, that are willing to take people on and nurture them through whatever journey or any adversities and that too. Not to say we have all the answers, it's just to have that security that people will care and are out there willing to help out, and not just financially, as we're talking a little bit about business there for a minute. I think it's just support-wise. Yeah, support is very important. I think just getting up and going to work, whether it's a job or whatever, but getting up and doing something
teaches you a lot.
It does. The simple
self-discipline.
things. The simple things are Work ethic is very important. Discipline, consistency. When you talk discipline, without getting too much in it, because it's starting to sort of go a little bit
That's
on
right.
a long list and that there too. But for me, if I was to sit down and reflect on a few things, going through my journey, I was blessed to have some really good people around me. I do want to do a shout out right now for Derek Wilkinson. Hey bro, look, and again coming back to Dad's death, was the fact that Derek was a person that when Dad passed, he was the captain of Dad's league team. He was only young at the time, but you know what? He came around and he spent a lot of time with me and helped the family, you know, and
He
really
put his hand up, basically.
Oh, he really did, and that's what I'm thinking. What made him make that decision to do that, you know? And he come and talk with Mum, you know, be there, be present. Only young, and then he used to take me out and take me to do's. Like for example, he's involved in the church as well, you know, and he would take us out to swimming pools and all that sort of stuff too. But really connected to know that there was a father figure in the background too, and God love him. He did an amazing job. I owe a lot to him as well, Derek. But coming back to that, and look, my family are around too. But again, I guess what I'm trying to highlight is not everyone knows how to
But
help.
he wasn't family, you know?
And he wasn't
Or
family.
biological.
He wasn't family.
He's family, but not biologically family.
Yeah.
And he put his hand up and he came in and
He came
provided
in. He
a
came
lot
in.
of support.
and
You
he-
probably won't remember a lot of things like
Oh, look.
like the Rainbow's End thing,
Yeah.
but you know,
It was natural
it's
for him.
impactful.
It was natural for him to give because that was just him, you know, and he felt that he could help and he made a significant difference in my life. You know, so definitely to him. And again, what I'm just highlighting is hopefully there's good people out there, not just talking to people that need the help, it's the people that have got the fruit on the tree, whether it be financial, whether it be people with wisdom. You know, not saying that I have any of these, but
No,
I'm just
you
saying
definitely
people, but people that are out there.
Yeah, encouraging.
Encourage. Look,
Encourage.
put your hand out there. Put your hand up and
'Cause it
make
has
sure
a-
you're available. That's what I'm saying. Make sure you're available to others because I know there's so many amazing people out there, and there's people that's holding, that really want to, that need a hand up. You know. So, and for this forum, I think perfect opportunity to say that. So, mentor-wise, please put your hand up. But look, any wisdom side of things, nah, man, just get out there. Get up out of bed. You know, go and do what's you're passionate about. I love what Ray's saying about your purpose. I'm still finding my feet on that one, to be honest. Talking about reverse engineering, I'm still going to find my feet with that too. But wisdom-wise, man, just get up. Get up and do the hard work because there's no substitute for hard work.
Yeah, that's true.
There's no substitute for hard work and still get in the grind.
Work hard and work smart together.
That's it.
I know a lot of people put emphasis on one or the other. Why not both?
Agree, bro. That smart one, bro. I love that one because you know we could work hard doing the wrong thing for the rest of our life.
As long as you enjoy. I think that's what I always try to bring it back. You can work hard, you know. Just make sure you enjoy it in yourself, you know. 'Cause you don't want to. I know a lot of people when they get to later in their lives, they hold a lot of regret. And that's what I'm trying to steer people away from is don't have that unnecessary regret. It's like, yeah, again, enjoy the journey. And like I was saying earlier, yeah, enjoy.
No, thanks for inviting me, bro.
Are you wrapping it up?
I was trying to, unless he's got other things to bring up. Look, man, I'm happy to talk. I was trying to get out. Oh, that's right. I'm not the host here. That's the choleric
good,
side.
bro. It's been good.
It has. Look, definitely helping me because as much as I was freaking out
Trying
when
to
I
be
found
thought
out.
provoking.
Oh my gosh.
So you found out when you landed, which was just the other night.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Yeah, I only found out the other day that I was coming to do this. But you know
That's
what?
good.
You know what? You just get in there.
That's
And
it.
And really, it's
Practice what you preach, you know.
it's
Jumped in there. I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate this video, you know, this moment that we're having, myself included.
Yeah, me
if
too.
I'm still around, you know,
What do you
30,
think?
40 years from now.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll reflect back on this podcast and say, geez, look where we were.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding. Look where we are now, you know?
You know what's funny is like when I did the organised a nationwide tour around New Zealand. We called it the GMD Life is Great tour,
Yes.
and the whole premise was to address the whole suicide thing. You know, life is great. You know, not saying like, oh, my life is great, look at me, but more like a play on words. It's like life is great as like a reminder. It's kind of like a little subtle, you know, that life is great. So we did a tour, and this is about 10, 11 years ago. But
Wow.
But you know what? I documented all the trips. I edited the videos, and I posted it up on YouTube. And even to this day, like all my friends that were involved, we all still talk about all those times, you know. But we had the captured footage of it, and so we're just always talking about all the tours, you know, doing the tour here and all the memories that we share. And I think that's what sparked me on this podcast idea, is that right now it's like me capturing all those times we went traveling around. Well, now I'm capturing intimate moments with family and loved ones that in 10, 20 years from now, I'm going to look back at this just like me and my boys look at the tour videos.
Sure.
All right. Thanks for coming again, bro.
Ah, man. Love you, man.
Love you too, brother. That's it.
That's it, bro.
Made it.
We made it. How long was that?
2 hours and 4 minutes.
Chris, you still got the record, bro.